Hi everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the recent price rise that's going to be coming to ESPN Plus and how that could impact on Disney Plus. We're also going to be talking about some of the other big news this week, including Bluey and also Dancing with the Stars. Plus, we'll be sharing our thoughts on some of this week's big Disney Plus releases, including the finale of Miss Marvel and much more. But before we do any of that, quick bit of housekeeping. If you haven't already done so, make sure you do hit that subscribe button here on YouTube or on audio platforms. You can also comment below with any of your thoughts. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, etc. And also make sure you either bookmark or do the mailing list, whatever, on the website, so you keep up with all the latest. On that, let's jump into it. So let's start off with the big one, really. Let's start with some the title of the episode. So ESPN Plus is going to be increasing its prices from August the 23rd by 43%, going up from $6.99 a month to $9.99 a month, or the annual package is $69.99, going up to $99.99. Obviously, this bundle is only in the United States. The current Disney streaming bundle isn't set to go up in price because it includes Hulu with ads, or you can kind of get there's another version, and then you also get Disney Plus. I suspect the bundle is going to go for a real big shift. Maybe in the next coming months, or depending on what's going on with Disney Plus. But yeah, there's a lot of talk about this. A lot of people, obviously, subscribers generally like, I don't like the price going up by $3, but also there's a bit of got some people going, no, I don't want to pay it because it's not got everything that I want. But there's also a lot of other people going, well, there's a lot of content being added to ESPN. They're spending a fortune on content, and they're adding more and more value to it. And in comparison to other sports networks, it's actually relatively quite cheap. I look at this as more of this kind of price was like, for me, actually did something exact opposite. It was like, oh, they aren't adding this. They aren't adding ESPN Plus into Disney Plus anymore. That was how I took that price rise. Of just going, they're not going to do that in August and then bundle it in September. That would make no sense to do that.
Alternatively, they're doing it to make it look better when it joins Disney Plus at the regular, without a price increase or with the already assumed price increase. Because I don't think it's what they're doing, but it is important to remember one of the very common sales tactics that's out there, extremely common, is to have two products, one which is very clearly the better price option than the other, and the other one only exists to go, don't look at our competition prices. Don't look across the street at their prices. Look at this price and look at that price and look at how much better product B is than product C. And that's probably not the case here, but that's always something we have to keep in mind. That if you want to keep ESPN Plus by itself, you have to pay this price. But if you want it as part of your Disney Plus, well, it's just right there. And look at all the other stuff you get for Disney Plus.
Yeah, see, I saw this and I was like, I've got a feeling now that I can't see them merging quite as soon as because I thought that was a possibility, especially with like Apple TV are set to get like American football. They've recently got some other soccer, Amazon. They're all playing around in sports, but I could see some live sports being added for free onto Disney Plus, like they're doing with Hulu and ABC right now. But I think, in all honesty, and I don't know why they haven't really gone down this line yet, of putting ESPN Plus available within the Disney Plus app, like they've done with Hulu, as an additional add-on. Because that way you keep the price of Disney Plus lower, but you have the option there as and you can get it a little bit cheaper maybe. But the price of there's been a lot of talk of turning like ESPN Plus into like its own separate standalone platform, kind of equivalent to the cable version for people that don't have cable, as more and more people move away. And for me, that price point really shifts the idea away of it possibly having a full merger with Disney Plus now. And now I think it's going to be an add-on or a built into as it currently is, or a standalone app. It just feels like the thing shifted a little bit with this price rise.
Yeah, and I would assume that that's based on their own research, where they've looked at it and gone, we've been adding the ESPN documentaries to Disney Plus, or we've seen the numbers from other streaming companies that have them merged in together. And it turns out that the people watching Disney Plus and the people watching ESPN Plus don't actually overlap so much that makes it worthwhile to put them all into a single thing. Obviously, they're not going to publish that kind of data, but if they are going in this direction, when it looks like they are, that would be my guess, that they have found that it works better as two different apps in terms of subscriber bases and what people are using the apps for.
I think I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't be at all surprised if eventually ESPN, you go into an ESPN hub, and then you get like a certain number of stuff for free, like the 30 for 30. Maybe the occasional live sport event is like ones that they really want to push, like because they do share live streaming on Hulu, ABC, and ESPN Plus already. So it's not like that would be uncommon. They've paid for rights to put it where they want, and they can run advertisements, and then you kind of go, oh, you want all the sports where you got to pay this extra fee to kind of get access to it. It keeps the Disney Plus price much lower because they have to pay for it. Everyone will have to pay for that sports. It might also, because it's very interesting as well, because ESPN Plus is just in the US. Internationally, we've got ESPN Player, which is hardly anyone uses it compared to like other streaming services. It's the same price. Why they don't just go for a global ESPN Plus brand? Because they even on like our like, I'll just bring it up here. What always got me with that Tom Brady special, it says it's an ESPN Plus original. It's like, well, we've got that over here on our icons. Like, well, we don't even have ESPN Plus. But yeah, it's like sports is one of those really weird things. Like for me, I don't want really you could take all that ESPN content off Disney Plus and it wouldn't bother me at all. So I did watch the XFL special the other week that they put on there. It's not my thing. It's not what I'm interested in, but it does appeal to sports fans, to adults and stuff. So I understand, and especially with some of the older content, you might as well use it. You might as well ease people into this content. And if they can put on a free game or a fee and kind of go, oh, there's more on. I feel like that's where we could see this. Maybe that idea of the bundle just coming down to Disney Plus and ESPN Plus, which I think is a much more realistic option of just focusing in on sports and entertainment and kind of keeping them a little bit of a way over. But I mean, I think like Apple TV, they got the soccer rights for the US. They're still charging extra to get access to it. They're not including it in their main Apple Plus, Apple TV Plus, whatever they call it.
Well, that's the other aspect to it, of course, and it probably also applies to ESPN Plus as well, is that the rights to sports, at least in the States, and probably depending on the popularity of the sport in other countries like cricket in India and so on, the amount that these companies pay to have the rights to broadcast them are actually really, really large.
Yeah.
So keeping them separate on the balance sheet from our created content, from the curated content, even from the National Geographic content, and the sports content makes it a little bit easier for them. Plus, the second revenue stream lets them justify the cost of what they're spending on it. And right now we are seeing a bit of a bidding war as each of the companies grabs whatever they can, try to get the most popular one in each region, obviously, but there's still secondary sports that are very popular as well. And that's what's going on right now. I think every major streaming company, even Netflix, has announced some sort of sports package somewhere for something that will grab subscribers. Absolutely will 100% grab subscribers just for that particular sport.
Yeah, and I mean, like you say, they could end up merging in. I don't know. I mean, where do you think they are going to go? Do you think it's going to be separate, or they will eventually merge them together?
Ultimately, I think it's going to stay separate. The only way it ends up merging in to the Disney Plus app properly is as an add-on. Pay an extra fee for ESPN Plus within Disney Plus.
Yeah, and to me, I always view the fact that was something that was eventually always going to come in, was that like it would make complete and utter sense to have the ESPN hub, and then you click on it, and then it brings you into here's some stuff for free. Would you like and then there's a kind of upgrade to have, because sports is so expensive, it will just push the price up for everybody, and having it as a separate add-on. And then if you don't like it, you don't have to pay for it. But if there's a little bit of sport, I think some people will quite like that. I think there'll be if you get one game, you get a couple of games a week or something, or the odds, you maybe got a new documentary that they're dropping on there, they can use it to kind of boost it like they have been doing with some of their other ones.
Yeah. However, the other side of that, though, is, of course, we're approaching this from the Disney Plus side of, should ESPN be an add-on for Disney+? But that's not ignoring, but it's kind of going with the idea that Disney Plus is the main package and ESPN is the secondary package. There are more than enough people who are just like, yep, I want sports. I want sports. I don't care about the Marvel shows. I don't care about Star Wars or the Disney princesses, any of that. I just want my sports. I want my American football, my British football, hockey, etc. That they're like, yeah, why would I get Disney Plus and then pay for ESPN on top of it? Just let me have ESPN without this stupid Disney package,
Yeah, and I that's why I think like they've done it with Hulu, where you can either access it within it or separately, and it is exactly the same username and password, so you could have the two apps. And I think we're gonna I think at some point there's going to be much more of a better connection. They've kind of established in some way over the last few months with this ESPN content that there's stuff in there. They've set the tone. They're dropping some of these series in there. So if they add an ESPN hub in there, it kind of almost acts as a gateway into ESPN Plus for Disney Plus subscribers, I think. And ESPN Plus subscribers are growing drastically in the US. And then also internationally, they can kind of do the same thing. They can put the ESPN hub in there, and they can put some of the sports and stuff, because they've got a lot less live access to sport, but they've still got some things, and then they can use that much easier, whether it's all built in, or they can again make it into a global add-on for the sports and do it that way. I think it's a lot easier now. For example, here in Europe, because now Europe and Middle East and Africa have all got Disney Plus, it makes it much easier for them to do the thing with the ESPN player, which is available in all those countries. It's like we had to wait for them to come in. It also might indicate as well, it opens it up with the Hotstar stuff maybe being moved over, because they can put the sports into the sports package, and you can see the things are kind of moving around. We're just going to have to wait and see. But to me, this price rise, while I completely understand it from the point of view going, well, ESPN have really been spending some money on some sport. They're spending billions of content on it. They need to raise the prices. I mean, to be honest, at $4.99 and then $5.99 and $6, because they've been putting that up nearly yearly, it was really cheap. I mean, it was really cheap for what it was, but now they've fully embraced it, and they know so many people now have just not got cable for sports, and they need to get them on. And I don't know. I think this is, to me, it's actually made it a little bit more clearer that there is probably going to be much more of a big divide with this ESPN content.
Yeah, the only problem there, of course, is that rationally speaking, when we look at these things, it's not, oh man, I've been underpaying for ESPN all this time compared to man, the $4 was just so cheap, and now to go, oh well, we're adding $3. It's not, oh well, that's actually still less than the industry standard. It's like, no, that's another $3 per month, $36 per year. Like, come on, guy. From a rational perspective, yes, they're still well within the normal range, and honestly, they probably had to do this, but it is difficult to see a price increase that's almost 50%, basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think as well is, like, in some way the way that, like, the stock market and all the investors and stuff, they're no longer going grow, get big, grow big, get big. We eventually you're going to make some money. And they're going, no, cut that out, make money now. Stop trying. It's better to have 20 million subscribers that you make a profit on than 25 million or 30 million that you make no money on. It's like they essentially have to make more money to make this thing worth it, because they aren't going to run making a loss forever. There at some point it has to, and I think the scale, they might be reaching a point like, oh, how many more subscribers are we going to get? And they will lose some, but it's like for every one they lose, for everyone that stays, it pretty much offsets it with this price rise.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how the market reacts to it.
Stock went up with this announcement, about 4%, I think.
I think the stock market had a really impressive Friday, at least. I'm talking in general.
Yeah.
Like, the stock market itself had a pretty big bump, but again, the day-to-day isn't the question. It's that month-to-month, if not year-to-year view of things that matter. And also, the stock market does kind of require infinite growth, which at some point will no longer be sustainable, and we're actually probably pretty close to that, honestly.
But on that note, let us know what you think. Do you think ESPN Plus will become an add-on within? Oh, sorry, ESPN Plus will become an add-on within Disney Plus, or keep separate or merge? We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Let's jump now into some other news. It was announced this week that Bluey season 3 is going to be coming to Disney Plus on August the 10th. So all you parents out there can be assured that you're not going to have to keep watching through the same episodes over and again. You're going to get some new ones. 25 new episodes dropping. The other 25 episodes from season 3 will be dropping at a later date. It'll be dropping onto Disney Plus around the world, in the UK, Canada, in loads of countries, except for in Australia and New Zealand, because there's some different deals down there. But yeah, the list of countries is about like this long. So the only one, it was Australia and New Zealand seemed to be the only ones that were missing from there. But yeah, I know a lot of people, I mean, Bluey was number 1 like last week on trending for like 4 days running and going, you guys know there's Obi-Wan and Miss Marvel on there. Like, they were just like, nope. It was like, right, Kenobi's over. Bring back Bluey.
Well, again, the people watching Obi-Wan and the people watching Bluey are probably not the same people. The accounts are the same, but the people are not. And we've seen this, of course, with Mickey's Playhouse and the Racers and so on. They are perpetually on the trending tab. And it's not that all of the subscribers are going home like, new episode of Bluey, got to sit down. No, it's the kids are sitting in front of it and they're watching 12 episodes at a time, and then tomorrow they're watching the same 12 episodes at a time, and then tomorrow they're watching this. We do it with Simpsons, or we, broadly speaking, that's why the Simpsons are there. We've got tons and tons of people who are just watching the Simpsons or leaving it on in the background.
It's a really big thing of just like having like you almost like a favorite background show that you have on at the moment that you don't have to fully pay attention to.
Exactly, and most of us have some form of that. It may not be the same show over and over for some people, but when you've got like The Simpsons with how many hundreds of episodes, even just being like, I'm going to start from the beginning and end at the end, that's a lot of episodes.
It's amazing as well here, like in the UK, of the difference of, like you say, of having content like that, because I'll just bring up here, for example, here in the UK at the minute, you look at our streaming one and the trending, and it is like Family Guy is just constantly there, like you say, The Simpsons, Grey's Anatomy, Modern Family, just all these kind of shows that you can just put on and just keep leaving on and leaving on and leaving on. It's like my parents over there. They've binged through 10 seasons of Criminal Minds on Disney Plus in the last couple of, they're just making their way through them all. And yeah, there's a lot of content there for that kind of reason.
Yeah, and there is no particular secret behind the ones that are up there. They have tons of episodes. Grey's Anatomy has been on what, season 19?
We're on season 18.
18, yeah. Criminal Minds, NCIS, they have tons and tons of episodes. They just churn them out. So even if you're just casually watching, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to watch it's like 200 episodes, 300 episodes. It's going to get onto the trending tab if enough people do that. Now, getting back to Bluey, though, of course, my understanding, I don't have kids myself, but from pretty much every parent I've ever talked to about Bluey, they're like, this is a great show. We love putting our kids in front of it. And I don't think I've ever heard anyone really say negative things about Bluey. So
no, I mean, we did a podcast episode with a well-known Bluey podcast earlier this year with Josh, and it's like the parents are all loving. They all love it because there's stuff in there for them, which is generally doing well. But yeah, so Bluey will be heading to our screens next month. It was also announced some details on Dancing with the Stars, which is coming to Disney Plus in Canada and the US in the fall. It'll be the first live streaming show that'll be happening every single week. Has been confirmed that Tyra Banks will be returning as one of the hosts, along with former season 19 champion Alfonso Ribeiro, who you might know as Carlton from Prince of Bel-Air. It's kind of funny because Alfonso was on. He's been on the UK show quite a few times. He was a special guest judge here on. So it's like I've seen him do stuff here as well, and like that seems like a good fit with with the host and stuff. So it's like they are shifting it a little bit. The judges are going to be returning. You got Bruno and Len will be back, along with Derek, and also I don't know who she is. Carrie Ann. I don't know who she. I haven't seen strictly. That was the other. See, because Len and Bruno they used to do the US show, and then they'd fly to the UK and do the UK show, and then they'd spend like 3-4 months of the year running. So for us, we had them for like up until recently, basically, Len retired in the UK because he couldn't keep doing the two, and Bruno also, with the pandemic, essentially he had to pick, and with all the restrictions and stuff, and then essentially they've had to replace him over here because he's been gone for a couple of years, so they kind of had to find, and Anton says replace him. He's really good anyway, but it's always funny because it's a bit like, I know in America it's not as popular, but it's just over here this show is just so big, it's hard not to for that to carry over onto this show, because they go, well, it's huge here. It's the biggest show of the year.
I wouldn't underrate it here. It might not be like the number one show of the year, but this has very commonly been one of the water cooler talk ones, or particularly, if you're part of our generation or younger, talking to your parents like, oh yes, we sat down and watched so you think you can dance or whatever, or Dancing with the Stars, and that is one of the common conversation starters. In fact, to the point where I expect that seeing this will be streaming on Disney Plus. If you are a child of a technically illiterate parent, you may want to anticipate, hey, how can I get Disney Plus set up on my TV or something?
I did this with my in-laws this week. They got a new TV, so it was like a set up, BBC Channel 4, got them into Netflix. I was like, all right, I'll give you BBC, I'll give you Disney. I'm like, they're like, well, how does all this work? Like, that's fine. My dad can work it out, so you guys will be fine. So it's just like, so it's like, get them into, and like writing down some shows like, watch these. And that's how it goes.
Oh, I think we all have had that experience, and it's nice having technically literate parents. But yeah, I am expecting that call somewhere around the time when this starts to become much more publicly known. I know that it's not exactly a secret, but they haven't been advertising it as much. Once those trailers start on Disney Plus, yeah, can you come into town for a couple of days and make sure it's all set up for me? Once it's set up, it'll be fun. Like my mom, I've talked about it before. She loves her Netflix Korean dramas, and she watches them pretty much every day. She knows how to do this. It's just that initial setup.
Yeah, it's just that initial bit. And I know my dad's it was got up me the other day. Go, have you watched Halo yet? It's like, because I'm not sure about it. Dad, I don't even. I've started Halo yet. Because I logged him into Paramount Plus, and he's been. I said, yeah, get up. So he's been enjoying some of the shows on there as well. Right, let's also talk now about the Emmys, because Disney had a really good set of nominations. So they all got announced. Disney had over 147 Emmy nominations. All the shows, so many shows got nominated. We're not going to go through the whole list because it's just ridiculous. Some big ones there were like Only Murders in the Building picked up 17 nominations. Also shows like The Dropout, Dope Sick, Pam and Tommy, all of which, and this is where it kind of really gets a little bit interesting, because, and this is what I kind of wanted to talk about, was so many of these Emmy nominations. A lot of people, like Hulu got like 60% of them. And it was like for us international folks going, and Disney Plus didn't do very well. Like, Disney Plus did really well internationally, because it's like nearly all of these here are like star originals. The amount of Disney original programming that got nominated here in the UK is incredible. It was just an incredible set of stuff, really, because I'm just going to bring up Disney Plus so you can see a bit. But Disney really pulled in. There was a lot of technical ones for the Marvel shows and the Star Wars shows, which is to be expected. They never really do very well in these kind of award shows anyway for nominations, because there's kind of always that thought, really, that they're not really like, it's hard to say what they are. It's almost like not something that people associate with awards, is it?
They're popcorn movies. You go in and enjoy them, but you're not going in for like something super emotional or revealing. You're not going to understand great truths about the universe when you're done with them. You go in, you enjoy the experience, you have fun with it, but you go home and your life doesn't change in any way, shape, or form afterwards.
So just looking here at like the Disney Plus Emmy award nominees section, this is again like the big difference of when it's all combined into one platform. We've got these. Abbott Elementary. Have you got around to watching that one yet?
I haven't, although out of all the sitcoms, it's one of the few that I'm kind of, yeah, I might want to try this one out.
It's good. I mean, I literally binged the whole lot in 2 days. I started it. It's a really good show. I mean, How I Met Your Father, I think I only picked like 2 technical awards. I think there's a little bit that's pushed, put it on the front. You know, Atlanta, like say, it's just strange, but Only Murders in the Building, like in the second tab, I'm like, well, you guys, that one's been there. It's like the most nominated one. Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers getting nominated for best TV movie. It has to win. Come on.
Please no.
It's good. And then, you know, like the classic things like, you know, some of these other shows and stuff that got in there as well. But it really showed me of what happens, of what the difference is when Disney is all combined, because there was a lot of talk of the Emmys didn't give out a list of like per network, because there's a lot of like I would say a bit of protectism about who's got what. So Netflix will go, we've got all of them. But HBO will be like, well, that's HBO, but that's the HBO Max team. And then Disney go, the FX team go, no, we're over here. And National Geographic go, no, we are separate. And then Disney go, no, you're all mine. It's like, you know, they'll be like, you know, you see all these stories going, Netflix won them. It's like, not like, no, they didn't. Disney actually got more than it, but because of the way they report it, it doesn't come up. Because I was I was going through trying to count them all up. I'm like, it's like trying to get the stories out, and I actually go, all right, I'm giving up. I'll give this an hour or two till Disney put out their tally, because I was losing because there's so many. I'm just like, oh, every time I went, it's like more were being announced. I'm like, this is just ridiculous of how many they've been nominated for. But yeah, it's a really good showing for them, and it's gonna be interesting when they all get announced of how many of the Disney shows are going to pick them out, because they've had some amazing shows this year.
They have, and again, across all the brands, so they have a lot of different categories that they're eligible for. But I'll say the same thing I say every time with Emmys and Oscars and stuff. It's just like, it's nice for them to get recognized, and the creators should get recognized. Let's be clear about that. You should get recognized for your work, especially when you do something that is landmark or groundbreaking or excellence in your field. But honestly, I find this whole thing just tedious, just completely tedious. I not going to watch the Emmys, not going to watch the Oscars. I probably should for the podcast at least, but honestly, I cannot care about this. I've tried, and it just.
But it's one of the only thing I had before we move on is it really shows as well of what we've been talking about a lot over this last year, where we've been sort of gushing over like, you know, Pam and Tommy and The Dopesick and The Dropout and Only Murders in the Building. You know, we've been talking about these shows, and you know, we're going to be talking in the coming up about, you know, Under the Banner of Heaven, and in a couple of weeks' time, hopefully, you know, there's going to be some shows dropping here internationally, like The Bear and The Patient and The Old Man. You know, we got the next wave of big series to go. And now we've known ourselves of how much, for us as adults, to be able to talk about some real decent shows rather than just superhero stuff. And we know we love the superhero stuff, but it's nice having, and it is, to me, it was like really good of just seeing some of those big, strong shows really kind of picking up the awards nominations, which I thought was great.
But again, it's really nice on paper. It's great great for the teams involved to get that recognition, because they don't always get the viewership. But to go, yeah, Dopesick's really good. The Dropout is really, really good. And I think everyone's got at least one friend who's like, yes, I watched all of the Best Picture nominations every single year for Oscars. You know, that I watch all of them because if they got nominated, then they're worth watching. But the vast majority of people are going to look and say, oh, that's cool. Dopesick got nominated. All right, well, I'm just going to go over here and watch this season of Dancing with the Stars instead. You know,
I must be on the main like title ones of like the main shows and stuff. I was like, wow, I've been quite good at this year. I've been, because, you know, I did try and watch some of the other big shows on the other networks that, you know, when the people are talking about it, because in some ways I don't have to cover them. I can just enjoy them a little bit, you know, like Stranger Things or Yellowstone or some of these other big shows, you know, The Staircase, something like that, you know. And it's sometimes it is just nice just to have watch something I don't have to think about.
I've never heard of that last one, The Staircase.
The Staircase, yeah. Colin Firth, he pushed this. You know, it's all about a murder, about being shoved down the stairs, and yeah, it's not too bad.
Well, Colin Firth's a good actor, so
yeah,
I accept that. Anyway, moving on.
Right, let's now talk about Pixar and Disney at the D23 Expo in September. So Disney has announced some of its plans. So we're going to be getting some first looks, some sneak peeks and presentations surrounding the upcoming and classic adventure films, as well as streaming titles. There will be interactive displays, artist autograph signings, shareable photo opportunities, filmmaker Q&As, and giveaways. So we already knew Disney and Animation Studios were working together with Pixar on the main presentation, which takes place on the Saturday the 9th at 3:30 in Hall D23. So they're going to be giving us a first look at the new film Elemental, which comes out next year. So we'll be getting an inside look on that one there. We're also getting a look at Strange World, which comes out in November. Also, we're finding out some more details on the Disney Plus series Waju, which is going to be set in Lagos, Nigeria. We kind of saw about it last year, but now we're going to have looked by looks of it. We'll be getting a first look. Now, there was a little note here that I want to bring up because it does say, please note that cell phones, cameras, and all other recording devices will not be permitted in this presentation, which says to me it's not being streamed, and this stuff is being shown to us without. Maybe they might show it out on there, but that little word there kind of said to me they're going to be very selective of what of everyone gets to see outside of the panel.
It wouldn't surprise me if rather than streaming it, they will add it to their website later, possibly with trailers cut out, which I think they've done in the past.
Yeah.
And yes, we will be there. So, I'm like, oh, not that big a deal. But obviously, millions and millions of people will not be at D23. And it's frustrating, but it is Disney trying to make it like worth your money to go.
Well, this is it. It's cost a lot of money for the tickets and stuff to go, but all the bits. Why you're going there. I have been sat on the other side over here watching everyone's social media posts for the last 5 D23 events, so I know perfectly well how frustrating, especially when they put this thing up of going, "There's no cameras permitted." Oh, great! That means we're not going to get any. It's like you're going to be if you're sat there going, "There's a presentation on the," you ain't getting anything on the internet unless Disney put it out because. Yeah, you're gonna have to wait. It's really it's annoying when you're trying to follow what's going on, and it's like, oh, they've taken your phones away. Okay, well, we're not gonna know anything more for a while.
It is always funny though, because there's almost always at least one little pirate stream with really bad quality. You can maybe hear what's going on, and the person next to him is talking away. I remember seeing, I think, the end game piece where Thor shows up on the Guardian ship for the first time, and you just kind of like. Is that? I think that's Hemsworth. I'm not sure. And there's always at least one.
Well, I remember the Disney Infinity days of watching someone's periscopes. That's how it was of these really bad live streams of the video games panel. So it's gonna be fun. But at least we know a little bit more about that there. They've also confirmed on the Friday there will be a traceback presentation on the Hyperion stage, looking back at the history. There'll also be on Saturday the 10th of September a Century of Storytelling on the Walt Disney Archive stage. So if you can't get into the main stage, if you're there, you can go to these other shows and stuff. There's also going to be a special celebration of Encanto with some special surprises. And this is one I'm looking forward to on the Saturday at 6 o'clock till 7 o'clock on the Backlot stage. There's going to be a sneak peek at Zootopia Plus. So that's gone into my calendar to try and get in to see that one. So that's not. And then on Sunday, there'll also be 100 years of treasures from the Walt Disney Research Library. So there's going to be lots of stuff going on. There's going to be photo opportunities as well. I think there's going to be a massive, great big thing in the middle of the hall with a 6-foot tall turning red panda and photo opportunities with socks and Lightyear and some other bits and pieces all going on. So they're going to have a big I'm trying to think of what even a booth, a big booth and presentation and stuff. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. So yeah,
having done D23 twice in the past, I will say there is a lot of stuff on the floor to do, which is interesting. The last time I remember, they had a lot of the costumes from Black Panther out on the floor, and you could just walk through them. And they had some Infinity War costumes up there. There's always very specific booths dedicated to these are all the LP albums of Disney. If you want to drop $400, you can get all the LPs right from this booth and things like that. And then of course there's a whole dealer's alley where you can get memorabilia from years and years ago if you don't mind paying whatever the dealer is asking for it and so on. I've mentioned this before. I will mention it again though, and you'll probably hear me say it again as we get closer to D23. Don't ignore the smaller panels. They're a very good chance to rest because there are not that many chairs on the floor that you can use, so that you get an opportunity to kind of get off your feet. But you can learn some really interesting things because they're much smaller, and normally we'll have a crowd size of like 30 to 40 people rather than the hundreds of people at the big presentations.
Well, there's probably thousands in the
in the main hall. Yeah, in the main hall, there's definitely thousands, but these little smaller ones, you actually get a chance to interact with the people. Yes, you're not going to be interacting with Chris Hemsworth or Chris Pratt or any of those guys, but people who actually work at the behind the scenes stuff at Disney, and we're talking parks, events, everything. It's not just the movies, and you can learn a lot from them, and you can really get a chance to just deep dive on stuff.
I'll be honest, I'm looking because I remember the last one they had like lots of little stuff and stuff, and it was quite fun watching all the videos and stuff afterwards. But yeah, from like me personally, I'm looking to try and go to as many of the Disney Plus presentations because that's the main reason I'm there.
Yeah. I wonder why.
Yeah, I don't know why, but yeah. So things like the Zootopia one, that's like bang, it's gone onto the diary for that day because it's that will be my main focus of the day. But there's gonna be like, if I wasn't doing the thing, you might, they'd be like, oh, there's something there with like Mary Poppins or something, all these different ones. But yeah, so D23 is slowly coming together. So is San Diego Comic-Con. There'll be, they announced there's a big FX like exhibit outside. They're going to be doing some panels and stuff. We're just waiting to find out really about the Marvel stuff. There's going to be a lot of stuff from San Diego Comic-Con. It's starting to feel a little bit like it's like FX, and the stuff that hasn't really slid into the D23 Expo seems to be getting a little bit more time at San Diego Comic-Con. All the 20th century content seems to be really heavily focused there, which seems to make a lot of sense. I don't think Disney have fully integrated FX. It's like, yeah, you can go around here, there's this, and if you go over there, there's a American Horror Stories labyrinth you can walk through.
and that's of course the thing. D23 is very specifically a Disney event, and it needs to have the Disney vibe because it's not Disney Plus specific. Obviously, like I just said, this is the parks, this is the old shows, this is Burbank, this is all of that, and they very much want to keep that Disney vibe. The princesses, the Mickey Mouse, the Donald Duck, and so forth. So yes, there may be mentions for it, like in little small booths and things like that. But yeah, they are not going to have a giant, under the banner of heaven over here and American Horror Story, everything else.
I'm expecting some stuff with Avatar. I'm expecting some 20th century title announcements and stuff. But
Avatar would make sense. It has a presence in the park. It has a whole section of Animal Kingdom, so you can definitely go, oh, this is part of Disney. And Star Wars is part of Disney, and Marvel is part of Disney, even with everything else. So, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking here because I just realized it is actually D20. It's actually San Diego Comic-Con next week. Before we go on to the reviews, and we'll do this quite quickly, from the Marvel point of view, what are some of your predictions that you think they're going to reveal?
Well, let's drop the obvious one right away, which is trailers. There will be trailers or at least teasers for a lot of upcoming product. Teasers is actually probably more appropriate because they're not going to want to drop trailers for things too far out. She-Hulk will be one of the big ones because that's the next Marvel one. And then a roadmap for, let's say, 7 to 8 years of Marvel movies and maybe shows. That might be a little too far out. But I
think the roadmap might just be the end of Phase 4. I think they might go a little bit tighter than. I don't know if they will go as far. I think they might just be like, here's the climax of Phase 4, so we know, and here's the roadmap for what's coming over the next 2 years. Because I don't think we're anywhere near the end of Phase 4 yet.
We don't even really know what Phase 4 is at this point. I've seen that complaint a lot online.
That's been a lot online.
What is Phase? Keeping in mind, Phase 1 was literally let's just introduce the characters, and it culminates in Loki trying to take over or take the Tesseract. But yeah, I could see them going a bit farther out than just the end of Phase 4, simply because everything has been pushed back. So a lot of the announcements in quotes for the next 2 years or so are things that have previously been announced, and they'll obviously getting new dates is important, but they want to show no, there's more roadmap, there's more things down the way. There's a Fantastic Four, there's the X-Men, or those I'm completely making up off the top of my head. Please don't go in with the expectation of that.
But I would expect in terms of like trailers and dates, I'm thinking What If Season 2. I think we'll get a first look at Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I think we'll get a first look at maybe the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. I think we'll get the trailer for I Am Groot, because we still actually haven't seen that yet. Yeah, and that's actually coming out in about 3 weeks' time. So those ones we might, and also Werewolf by Night. I think that will be the other big one. I think those are going to be like the trailers kind of things of things that are coming out reasonably quite soon. I think a roadmap with like Secret Wars, Ironheart, kind of showing where they are going to be a little bit better. Some of them with in connection with the movies, and maybe go into 2024. I don't think they'll go too much beyond 2024. I don't think we're going to get. I think 7 years. I think that. Yeah,
it'll probably be somewhere. It'll probably be somewhere in the middle, but we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what they've got going on, and I think there will be actor announcements like such and such will be playing this character, such and such will be playing. And I will caution people listening to this podcast, a lot of these we will probably have already known, but they're not officially confirmed yet.
This is the big key problem. And I think there was some banners going up with Captain America. So there's, the Captain America 4. We might kind of get that officially confirmed. Things like Thunderbolts, Nova, some of the Disney Plus series that we've been hearing about. Some of the stuff we know, but we haven't actually been officially to. It's kind of like, and I feel like we're going to have that big thing of everyone going, "Well, we already knew all of that." Yeah, but we didn't. From their point of view, we get the logo treatment, and as you said, they'll bring some celebrities out onto the stage to kind of go, "Here's our big announcement. Here's this person." Or here is Nova. Here is that kind of thing. Okay, so before we jump into the reviews of this week, let's now talk about our supporters on Patreon and YouTube channel members. Thank you so much for your support. It helps a lot. It helps towards paying all of the fees and stuff that we need to pay for, the software that we use. So big thank you to Sarah for the executive level. Also to Andrew, Elliot, Jacob, Caleb, Red Marsman, Aero G, Chris, Cody, Daniel. We've also got Darren, The Juice, Lauren, and Paul. Well, over on the YouTube, big thank you and hello to Mamau. We've also got Raphael, Adam, Dana, Ricky, Dave, my VCR still works, Bina, Joshua, Dawn, Martin, Jeremy, and Sarah. Thank you so much for all of your support. And as you know, all of our supporters can ask questions on the weekly Q&A, and the YouTube channel members can also join in live on Sunday night to join in, and also get the little emojis and stuff that they can use as well. Right, let's now talk about this week's big new releases. So looking at the time and stuff, it's been a lot of extra stuff that I didn't realize we were going to talk about this week, so which is good. But in terms of, let's just jump straight into it. Let's talk now Miss Marvel, because there was a lot of good stuff in here. What did you think of this episode?
It was a satisfying ending to the series. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Of course, I've been more positive on the series than you have for the most part, so it's probably not too much of a surprise. But I, minus a couple of things, really did enjoy this final episode. And overall, I know I'm not doing the overall, but this is actually one of my favorite Disney Plus Marvels. It's not the top. It's not up there, but it's a solid one that I enjoyed.
I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was probably one of the strongest episodes. The thing is for me is it kind of made it actually even more so of a way of we went episode 1, episode 2, really good. I really enjoyed them. And then you could almost jump to episode 6. And if you just watched the recap, that's all you needed to know, because the recap was indicated the only things you really need. Everything else was just filler. And I really enjoyed episode 6. I think they hit the landing right. I think they did a number of good things right. Wasn't so keen on the kid getting superpowers and like blowing stuff up. And it would have been just nice just to see Damage Control just going after Miss Marvel and him thinking he had powers or something on the. I don't think they needed to give him stuff to do. But I like the fact that there wasn't a big end of world crisis. There was just them trying to escape from Damage Control. I enjoyed that. Going back and having all the family, all the friends, just being, and her using her skills a little bit more and becoming big. And the whole aspect. I really enjoyed this episode. It was really good. It kind of got us back on track. It was a bit like, had it been a movie, we'd have had episode 1, 2, a little bit in the middle, and then we'd have gone into episode 6. And all the stuff that happened in Pakistan never would have happened. And probably even the clandestines wouldn't have even happened because they were completely pointless. It's just like, yeah.
It really did feel like, especially in retrospect, the clandestines were included simply because they need to have a fight every episode. That's the genre thing. And you see this with the CW shows, you see this with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and things. So it's not unique to this show. But like, nope, it's a superhero show, which means they have to have a superhero fight. Oh, how do we do this? Because we can't do damage control. These evil versions of it. And it's like, you really didn't need to do that.
They could have just had a damage control having a super powered member.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could have had just that would have had the. I just feel like damage control was the natural villain of the series, where they're trying to track her down, and the whole clandestine stuff just seemed completely irrelevant. It just seemed unnecessary. Going off, I mean, the whole backstory of going back in time, didn't mean anything. It just didn't mean anything at all in the grand scheme of things. It might have helped build out the character, but spending 20 minutes with her grandmother didn't really, or great grandmother, didn't really help in the. I don't know, but this episode. It really felt like this show hit the ground running and delivered what I wanted from it. It did. Yeah, I got to the end and went, that was a really good episode. That I really enjoyed that a lot. I wouldn't say this was my favorite Disney Plus series. It kind of was a bit hit and miss in the middle, but I enjoyed it. I really struggle with the idea of how few people seem to be watching it. I'm hoping more people might have checked it out now that they've whole series out, and maybe people can jump into it. But it's just really I just find it really disappointing because there is some charming things about this series. And Miss Marvel she is so nice. She's just really a really nice character. And even in regard to the story and stuff, just what she's done, it's a lovely show. It is a really good show. It might not be the best show, but it hit somewhere differently than the other shows, and I think that's what I liked. It was different, and I really like that about it. Any final thoughts on that before we get into like the two big reveals?
Yeah, I think the only complaint I had with the final episode was it did get a little Home Alone-y when they were in the they were in the high school, and they're like, oh, we're going to use the baseball throwers, and we're going to use the science experiment to just fill it with this giant foam. I was like, okay, this is a little bit much, but again, as we said throughout the entire series, this is aimed at a younger audience, so the Home Alone does kind of fit in. And also, they actually do get, caught, rather than it's just Kevin running around with impunity.
Well, I like the idea as well that they did that, but it was all a distraction. It wasn't there to. They weren't trying to
beat them.
Beat them. They were just trying to slow them down, and it was a bit, it was all just one big distraction. So yeah. I did think that worked okay. But yeah, so that was good. Obviously, we had two big sort of surprises. So in the post-credit scene, had Miss Marvel swap places with Captain Marvel. They kind of blipped, and when there was a lot of discussion on the internet because in the comic books, Miss Marvel has turned into Captain Marvel, like shapeshifted. And there was a lot of questions about what had actually happened, whether or not they'd split or whether they'd shifted. But it has been confirmed they swapped places. Now, I'm not expecting the Marvels to start at that point. I suspect we will see Captain Marvel be doing stuff. She's going to hit something, and then she'll swap places, and then they'll introduce Miss Marvel then. I think that's how that will work, rather than just start the movie with the blip. Because otherwise, yeah, I don't think they'll do that. I think there'll be something set up before them.
Probably an explanation for why it's happening, because in this form it's just like she's at home, she's doing fine, and then her bangle is acting up, and boop, she's Captain Marvel. And it even with them adding context after the fact, it's like, what's happening in the scene? I don't understand what's happening in the scene. So yeah, it makes sense to me that the movie will probably give us context to why this is happening.
Well, they did that before with one of the Falcon and Winter Soldier like things where it was like halfway through the movie we saw it rather than straight into it. So
right, exactly.
But I think they've set this up quite nicely with her now being established. That will just establish her straight in. They can just introduce her. This is Miss Marvel. Bang, this is her. And they don't have to do much of an introduction. They'll probably just do, hi, Carol, I did. And can do a bit of a thing like that and just bring her in a case of a minute or two. But I think that will work quite nicely. I thought that was great to see Brie Larson in this series just for a fraction, just to connect the two.
Yeah, I wish it was a little bit less confusing what was going on, but hopefully it'll make more sense in retrospect. And of course, we've already had characters like America Chavez joining in Doctor Strange, so hopefully it will not be jarring in the movie to have that pop in.
And also, there was a big reveal where Brian reveals that Kamala's got some kind of mutation in her DNA. But not only was it just they mentioned the word mutation. There was also a little rift from the 1970s, from the 1990s animation.
Yeah.
And that really kind of like, okay, that's not just subtle. They apparently this was not leaked out to anyone. Very few people knew about this one. I'm a little bit like, I was like, why do it here? But the thing is, there's a bit like, I would normally have been like, yeah, introducing mutants in this series didn't seem really fit. But because we've already seen Xavier in Doctor Strange, it's like, well, we've already had the first appearance, and we've had, it's not like it was the first mention of it. But also, it's like they seem to have. I mean, Miss Marvel is just they've just rebooted her completely changed her powers, completely changed who she's now. She's no longer an Inhuman. Now she's a mutant, and she's going to be the first mutant of the MCU. Yeah, and there's also the fact of like, could we not have got someone? I know Brian's intelligent. Or do we have to have all these kids work all this stuff out? That
that is a significantly bigger issue. The Brian thing, and it's something that you see a lot in these shows. Like, yes, we're high schoolers, we're teenagers, like, and yet somehow I have access to like gamma ray spectrometers, and I can compare your power reading. It's like, this is.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. You need to quote unquote explain this and blah blah blah. It's like, oh man, can they not have the super genius friend for once who has access to Tony Stark level technology and things like that? Anyway, ignoring that, yes, the mutation thing, which I thought was highly entertaining, simply because the Inhumans were supposed to be the replacement for the mutants, and of course Kamala in the comics is an Inhuman. Now they're like, nope, Inhumans didn't really work out. Here are the mutants, and Kamala's going to be the mutant.
But then there's word that this could, obviously Kamala could be an Inhuman in another universe, another dimension.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's plenty of things open, and the mutation could simply be the trigger for the Inhumans when they get exposed to the Terrigen gas. This is what we saw in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, either you turn into a superhuman like Quake does, or you turn into a pile of ash like some of the other characters do. And this mutation could be that. But I think it's pretty explicit that we are going down the X-Men route with this at the moment.
And I actually think it's a good idea. I know everyone's like, well, they want to rush into the X-Men. But I actually would be much more happy with them doing multiple dropping things like this, talking about mutations, saying, well, there's somebody's it's like turning around and going, well, actually, then they're going to retcon like Scarlet Witch and go, well, actually, you have because they showed a little bit in Doctor Strange too, where she's like in the house and she's got powers, but like and it all comes through with puberty and all the rest of it. So I think they're going to just set the tone and build up to it. And then, rather than just kind of go all, I think they can take their time over this one and just build up and then do the X-Men. Or I don't even know how they're going to do the X-Men, but yeah.
We'll see on that. But like you can definitely go back and go, okay, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, what allowed them to survive the experiments that we saw at the Age of Ultron, and then the post-credit scene that led into that, was that they're mutants, kind of similar to how Kamala is able to use the bangle when other people can't, because it's the activation effect. As for the X-Men themselves, I really hope that they don't decide to do that. There's actually been a secret school in New York for the last 20 years, and they've just been hidden. They've been little Wakanda in the middle of Rochester, New York. I would like them to start from the beginning. Sure, bring in Xavier as a young man, or bring in a completely new character to be the mentor figure. But I would like, given that we now have like 15 years of history with the Marvel Universe, I don't really want another secret society that just has been hiding and no one knows about, even if it is the X-Men.
Yeah, it is it's going to be interesting to see how they. But it definitely got the internet talking that morning. The concept of not doing spoilers completely went out the room once the mutants got mentioned and Brie was in there. It was just like, it was everywhere. It was kind of like, oh yeah, everyone's talking about this show suddenly. Just like, and it might be like kind of thing. I think there might be a bit of a boost this week where some people are going like, I don't need to watch that. Maybe I will poke my head in.
I mean, to be fair, if you weren't planning on watching it, it literally is just you have a mutation. Like, yeah, that's it. That's it.
It comes at the end of the story. It's not even connected to the rest of the series.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like I said, I think this is a good episode. It's kind of finished off the series, I think, strong. It's always going to be funny with Miss Marvel. She was always on an uphill battle before the series even started. But I'm really glad that I was hoping for. I did kind of go for the end and go, like, Captain, she will return. I'm like, oh, I wanted season 2. That's what I kind of wanted. I was like, come on. I was like, the trouble is, season 2. They're either going to integrate her in with other shows, or they're going to be like, no, the viewership was not good enough for a second season. That's my worry with this one. If like this is the least viewed one of like, but at the same time, like, this is the one that we could do with the quick, and we need it now. Get them filming it like now while she's still young. You've only got a few years to kind of make the most of this, so get on it.
Yeah, no. When you've got kid superheroes, there is a timeline for how long you have. I mean, sure, you can get lucky with like Tom Holland, and yeah, he's teenage Spider-Man. Like, not really, but we'll see how that goes. I would love to see a second season, or even just her showing up in other shows, or doing the Champions, which is kind of the Young Avengers, or the Young Avengers. And either way, I do understand why this didn't do as well. There's a lot of different factors into it, but it is actually a solid show with some serious missteps in the middle. We do have to acknowledge that. Yeah. That said, overall, I just enjoyed the ride on this one.
Yeah, I definitely would fall into that thing of like, great start, dodgy middle, really good end. And that's kind of like that was how that one went with me. Now, before we go off, just a quick couple of things. I'm going to briefly mention Zombies 3, which came out on Friday. I did watch it, unfortunately.
I did not.
I'm going to be honest. I even messaged you and was like, don't bother. If you like Zombies 1 and 2, you're going to like this one. If you like dancing, you're going to like this one. For adults, just skip it. It's just I actually was like, I am hating this. I am just really. The dancing was great, but the story and the plot was just, and the acting and everything was just like, oh, this is just painfully bad. So yeah, if you like Zombies 1 and 2, you will enjoy it. I'm sure you will. But this is definitely a younger demographic. It's not aimed at me. It's like I was so glad when it ended. The songs and stuff are nice, but yeah, the plot in between just unbelievable. How it's like, you talk about making assumptions, they just jump straight. They don't bother doing it. Like, yeah, we're not even going to bother. But yeah, so the Zombies 3 came out. We also had a new episode of Only Murders in the Building. Again, just because the series just continues to just get good and just continued. It's just I enjoyed like them bringing in like it's not only the daughter, but kind of the daughter. It kind of freshened up the act a little bit, and her being a little bit older and getting involved in all the little caves or little tunnels behind them all. Yeah, no, I a really good episode. I'm just really enjoying this series. We're at that point now. We're at a halfway point. So it's like we don't know where it's going. It can go anywhere in the next 4 episodes.
I think this might actually have been my favorite episode, not just of season 2 so far, but maybe of the series entirely. There's so many great bits in it. Nathan Lane coming back into the show, and he's playing nice with Martin Short, and then the scene when he exits the elevator and the facade comes off, and he had that great little monologue. Don't watch the monologue in front of kids. It is not kid friendly. But my favorite bit was the daughter coming in and being the young person, and what's her name?
Selena Gomez.
Selena Gomez's character no longer being the hip and trendy one who knows all the energy. She's just looking at it going like, Are you speaking English? What are you talking about? And it was such a great moment, because it's like, yes,
it happens all the time to me.
It's that famous Abe Simpson, I was with it, and then they changed what it was, and it'll happen to you too. And it was fun to see it happening with Selena, and she played it so well. Just like this, I kind of get what they see when they're talking to me. Yeah, and this was a great episode. This was a fantastic episode. I loved it.
I also happened to watch the Bob's Burgers movie this week because it came on to Disney Plus. I really didn't get it. I've really struggled with it. I've never watched the series, so that's going to be my thing. And I kind of was like, well, hold on, this is a movie. I should be able to jump in here. This is supposed to be a jump in point for me, and I just didn't. I didn't like it. It was okay for a bit, and it just went off on the crazy scale of I don't know, with underground layers of it. I just didn't like it. It wasn't for me.
I have seen like 2 episodes of Bob Burgers. It's not my thing, but I do actually understand why it is so popular. I can see the demographic they're aiming for, and it works well. I've not seen the movie. I have no idea how the movie relates to the series, and if it will be fine for people who enjoyed it. I assume it did. Like the Simpsons movie was fine if you were a Simpsons fan, and so on. I just, most of my relation to the show is people sharing Tina Belcher memes, the daughter, because she's very memeable apparently. But that's about it.
Yeah, it just didn't click with me. And I'm someone that basically cooked burgers for a decade, so it was like I completely understand. I got where he was coming from and running a business and the stress and stuff that came with, but it was just a bit crazy. It wasn't, but I think if you enjoyed the series, you probably, and there's a reason why it didn't do so good at the box office because of that.
There's that, and then also as successful as some movies are, like Top Gun and various Marvel movies and so on, the box office is still not to the point where people are just going, oh, you know what, we've got a free Wednesday night, let's go to the movies. It's like, no, that we're not back at that point. So a lot of these, I don't want to say second tier because that kind of demeans them, but the not huge blockbuster movies are still very much struggling.
Yeah. But no, it's good the fact it came out on Disney Plus here in the UK and it went on to Hulu in the US. Also, we had a new episode of The Orville, and I'm going to be honest, this was my least favorite one of the season so far. It was very, I don't know, it just seemed a bit bland. I didn't enjoy it as much.
Well, they had like the 2 different stories going on with the all women, well, not all women, but the matriarchal society that they're trying to appease by pretending that men aren't in any position of power on the ship, which sometimes worked, sometimes didn't, sometimes was kind of like all over the place.
But it didn't. I think because we've done that so much with the Mucklins, it didn't seem like it was like, well, okay, I know it's a role reverse, but it was like it wasn't strong enough on its own. It just felt a bit odd.
It was important to do the other side because yes, we spent a lot of time with the Mucklins and their purely male society, and like you said, the role reversal. Plus, it allowed for some interesting, fun moments with Kelly being like, "I'm the captain right now. I need to stop doing captain things because you're not supposed to be the captain right now." Some actual humor moments which have been missing from the series since the beginning of the season, and then also that little bit with Bortus being like, why would we associate with such a backward civilization that doesn't respect men? Or like, Bortus, just shut up, dude.
He's had such a growth over these 3 series. He's really kind of, he does accept them. Accepts women very, without a worry.
But I do like that they have that little moment with Bortus where he's like, why would we accept this matriarch? That's so backwards. Because it does show that he's progressive by Mocklin standards, but he is not progressive by other standards. And the spectrum changes based on what you're talking about, and that's something we can all learn from. And then of course there's the other story where they find this Kaylon who actually has emotions and doesn't want to murder everybody. And I think that will be a very important part of the episode in terms of like moving forward. And of course, they're going to have plans for how to deal with the Kaylons moving forward. So it's a very important plot point. But I honestly was just kind of, can we move on?
It was a bit sluggish, and also the whole thing of it, in getting feelings and then kind of them erasing them because it didn't work. It was nice seeing like the introduction of why they all turned on their owners. I thought that was good. But it was the worst episode, I think, of the season so far. It just felt a little bit sluggish, and you want feelings. So like, do I want feelings? Like, it was a little bit it wasn't my favorite episode.
That, and this is one of the few places where I don't think it has like where it needed to out Star Trek because we have the whole Data getting emotions and Lore, who has emotion, and they did the whole thing. And in this case, it was literally like, oh yeah, the way Star Trek did it with Data is pretty much the way it happened. Like, okay, well, we've seen this story before.
Yeah.
Cool. Can we keep going?
It was okay. It was. I mean, out of the whole season, I mean, if this is the worst episode, it shows how good the series is.
Yeah, I would say, worst episode is probably not wrong, but we're still at a much higher elevation than most of what recent Star Trek has been, other than Strange New World. That ended last week, and I will just say it stayed strong all the way through. I was very happy for that. A couple blips.
It's on my to do. Now we got rid of all the workmen and stuff in the house. I can actually get back and watch stuff because I've been locked away in the office for weeks. So it's like just watching things on little squares. Like no. Also got to watch the first couple episodes of Under the Banner of Heaven, which is coming to Disney Plus here in the UK at the end of the month. There's a whole we're getting the whole season at once. I'm a bit like, obviously not knowing where it's going. It's very well. I mean, it's very, very good, very well made. Very interesting seeing it how from the point of view of the Mormons' point of view and how strict they are and this whole family and stuff, and Andrew Garfield being torn of what's going on, and just seeing him at like a murder scene and like being a cop and just being absolutely in distress over seeing what he's seeing was so unique, because so many times in these movie, they walk in and just like it's just like, well, there's a can on the floor, is treated the same way as like a body, and it was like he was horrified, and he had to compose himself, and then he had to get the other people to compose themselves after seeing it, and I did enjoy that. Intrigued by the series. Me and my wife, we're going to probably going to take us a week to watch for it, because there's quite a few episodes and stuff, and they're quite about an hour plus long each. And we did 2 episodes back to back, but we're going to need probably a little bit more before the series comes out. But yeah, no, I'm really enjoying it. So it's like I said, I'm still a little bit further back yet, so I'm not ready to give a full review because I'm not. I'm only 2 episodes in.
Right, and this has been out in Hulu in the States in its entirety for a couple of. At least a month since the last episode aired. It was coming out weekly. I have seen the whole thing. I'm actually not going to talk about it because we have the opposite problem we normally have, where I'm like, I've seen the whole episode, and I watched episode 2 like literally 3 months ago. I don't remember where it ends and things like that. I will say it is really well done. I agree with you on the point where they actually show the police officers being horrified at the scenes, because even in those, like, it's a sleepy town, nobody ever has problems. The person just walks in and like, oh, there's blood, and they become like top tier CSI. And having Garfield just be like, you know what, this is not what I am used to. I am used to giving people for jaywalking and running red lights. I am not used to clean. And then he has to compose himself because he's the one in charge, and the people below him are freaking out. So he's got to be, nope, I am totally not freaking out right now. Everything, I know what I'm doing. And if you've only ever seen Andrew Garfield in Spider-Man, you're missing out on a lot of his acting ability. Like between this and
what's the one I watched him in recently? The Eyes of Tammy Faye. Oh, no, the Eyes of Tammy Faye, because he was kind of playing a similar, because he was a Christian evangelist kind of.
He does that a lot.
Yeah, no, it's like, I mean, I did actually watch Spider-Man No Way Home this morning because it came on to Sky Cinema today. So it was just like, and the cast in this is great. I mean, you got Captain America in there. You've got Brooke Sully from Jake from Avatar. It's great. It's just like, this is a great series. I'm really happy to. This is one I'm looking forward to watching over the next week.
And it, avoiding spoilers here, it does get pretty dark at times, but it's really well done, and it's very in your head and thinking about what's going on. I remember each week kind of going, oh, where do you go from this, and trying to put some pieces together. If you're in the States, go ahead and watch it. It's in Hulu. I look forward to seeing what you guys across the pond think of it too, especially since you don't really have Mormons over there. Mormons, a very American thing. It was found. They were founded in America. I don't think they, other than their missionary work, they don't really.
I think just as a general, like as a whole, it was a little bit like this with Filthy Rich as well, where it's kind of a little bit harder to get, because our systems over here just don't work the same way, and how like Christian stuff is much more like far away from this kind of level. So it's kind of like, in some ways it's quite scary watching it, because we're just not used to seeing this kind of level of of it. I mean, and yeah, it's just very interesting. Really enjoying it. Can't wait to watch the rest of the series. Also, flipping gears entirely, we had Solar Opposites. So the entire season got released in the US on Hulu. It was supposed to be the entire series on Disney Plus. They shifted gears at the last second and just released 3 episodes, and then we're getting new episodes weekly, which is a shame. They didn't. I mean, I did get it confirmed that's what's going to be happening. So we're going to be getting Solar Opposite episodes for the next 6 weeks or so here in the UK and in Canada and Australia and stuff. But the first 3 episodes, I love this show. It's so stupid. It's so funny. It's so vulgar. It's for me at the minute, I'd rather watch Solar Opposites than I've recently been watching some of the South Park specials on Paramount Plus and Family Guy, and just to me at the minute, Solar Opposites is just top tier animation at the minute. It's just so funny.
I haven't seen any of it so far, but I think it's really weird that they would drop the whole thing here and then do weekly drops.
Well, Disney even confirmed it, because I asked them something, and they're like, yeah, we're dropping the whole lot at once, and all the advertising, and then they literally just changed their plans and spread it out, which was annoying because it was like we're logged in on Wednesday. I even gave I even got the entire series for screener. That was even the weirdest thing. I didn't get around to watching them all, and then they changed it, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." But yeah, it's a very, very interesting thing of how Disney just keep changing plans. It's like the Bear. The Bear was coming in Canada and Australia, and then suddenly it got delayed a month. I'm really looking forward to watching that as well. So there's loads of great stuff. There's some really good shows, I think, hopefully dropping in August.
I just don't get it. Why it released the entire series in the States and then weekly drop. It's like all you're doing is encouraging people who really enjoy the show to seek it out through other means.
It wouldn't be so bad as well, but we've got so many shows, it doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not like we're lacking content. So yeah, it is a very, very strange one. But yeah, no, it is an odd one. Before my dogs start fighting. You'd think this little fluffy one wouldn't, but yeah, she's the worst.
I can hear her.
Well, on that note, guys, thank you very much for watching. We'll be back next week with another episode, and we'll be talking. I'm just trying to think what we've got for new releases next week. I don't think there's any major ones.
I think we're right now in this cycle. We've got some stuff coming down the pipeline a couple weeks from now, and towards the end of the month. But I think
I will be Yes, I think I will be able to talk to you guys about High School Musical, the musical, the series, the first few episodes of season 3 at least. And yes, I think it's a bit of a lighter week next week, but hopefully we get the lists for August will drop at the beginning of the week. So that would be good, but they might be later. Who knows? On that note, guys, thank you very much. We shall see you guys soon. Laters. Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure you go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow, and subscribe. Also, a huge thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and also on our YouTube channel memberships. And I shall see you guys in another video. Laters.